Okay, welcome everyone. As we begin, Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach, with appreciation to TorahAnytime.com for affording us the global platform to teach Torah to 187 countries, and to Chazak for being mefarsim the shir. We welcome everybody here in the Agus Yisrael Beis Zev, all our viewers, all our listeners, and Kol Haloshen, our digital subscribers. Tonight's shir is being sponsored first by my wonderful numerous Spalim here at the Agus Yisrael Beis Zev, Vayakheil Gems and family. Le'iloi Nishmas Mordechai ben Avraham. Mordechai ben Avraham, his neshama should have an aliyah. He should have a lichtige Gan Eden. He should be a melitz yosher for his family, for all of us and all of Klal Yisrael. Once again, we ask you to please learn tonight and bear in mind Mordechai ben Avraham, his neshama should have an aliyah. The shir is also sponsored tonight anonymously by someone who is starting a new business as a step towards going on aliyah in 2.5 years. And we learn l'skus of Yisrael ben Avraham, Sarah Miriam bas Avraham, and their son Yeshayahu Mordechai ben Yisrael. And finally, we have an anonymous sponsor, l'skus de refuah shalema of Yehudis bas Miriam Zisel, and that it should be a shidduch hagun, a good shidduch, and it should come easily and quickly for Vayakheil bas Miriam Zisel. It's interesting how Hashem makes it that I didn't have really any sponsors, and then it just came. We do not have a sponsor. I say it, and people say, well, you have 3 sponsors. Last week we had one sponsor that came 6 hours before the shir. I never know who's going to sponsor, so I throw it out. If anybody wants to sponsor a shir, 718-916-3100, and RMMWSI, still my Staten Island email because so many people know it, RMMWSI@AOL.com. Tonight we're going to speak about a topic. I'm going to get very carried away on this topic, I know, and I'm going to have to stop before I let it usurp the entire shir. But it's a topic that's very near to my heart. Vayas es hakir nechoshes, and Moshe Rabbeinu made the laver. That's the correct pronunciation. He made the laver, which later on was made with 12 spigots, so that the Kohanim could wash their hands and their feet. Vayas es hakir nechoshes, v'eskanoi nechoshes, and it's based out of shiny copper, b'maros hatzovos, with the mirrors, the copper mirrors that the women donated. Now, Rashi over here, Rashi is always so short and to the point. He doesn't waste a letter. All of a sudden, Rashi is very verbose, very garrulous. Rashi says, B'nois Yisrael hayu b'yodon marais, they had mirrors, sheroyes behem kishehem miskashtais, that they looked at themselves when they put on their makeup. And how did they have makeup in the midbar? So we know that they had makeup in the midbar because makeup fell with the mun. Now this is already something that our ears should hear, and we should perk up. Makeup came down with the mun? Maybelline and Revlon came down with the mun? Hashem Yisbarach was making a statement. You're in the midbar, you have the bare minimums, but a Yiddish shtib cannot exist without makeup. And you don't have it in the midbar, I have to provide it from heaven. It's a tremendous lesson. It's a Gemara in Saita. Now it came down from heaven because Oisa Shalom Bimraimav. Heaven is a place of peace. That's why when it came to weapons, the weapons were not provided by heaven. It says, "V'chamushim olu b'nei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim." They came out armed. The weapons weren't. We wouldn't need the arms when we did battle at the Yam Suf. It says, "Hashem yilochem lochem v'atem tacharishin." Hashem will battle for you. You'll be silent. You won't lift a finger. But later on, we would need weapons. So if we need weapons, so then Hashem will provide it for us. No, weapons don't come down from heaven. Cosmetics come down from heaven. And cosmetics are considered a necessity. When you think about teaching our daughters things, cosmetics are considered, just like the mun came down, just like there has to be Be'er Shel Miriam, there needed to be cosmetics. That's why it's a rather remarkable fact that from the 10 national takonas that Ezra made when he founded Yerushalayim, when he resettled Yerushalayim, is that if you wanted to be an Avon lady, I don't know if anybody remembers what an Avon lady is, but if you wanted to be a roichel, a peddler of cosmetics, you had to agree to go to every house on your route. You can't say that's a poor block, it's not worth it for me. It's such an interesting, that was a national takana. But Ezra learned that from the man. It has to be for every house. So the women had mirrors, and they put on their makeup. And Moshe Rabbeinu, when they brought it, he rejected it. Look what Rashi says. V'hoyamos behen Moshe. Moshe rejected it. He, not only that, he said, "You want to give this? This is the mikdash. Kula ruchni. You want to give that which is used for that which is mamish gashmi. Shayamayis behen mibnei shasuyin liyetzahara. It feeds the lust of a man. This is not something to put at the entrance of the Beis HaMikdash." That's what Moshe Rabbeinu thought. Rashi says we need to be educated. This is a mistake that Moshe Rabbeinu made. Moshe Rabbeinu said, "Look, it's a necessary evil." Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu kabel. No, accept it. Ki elu chavivin alay min hakol. This is more precious to me than everything. Mamish Rashi and Chumash. You have to understand. The Rambam says, "Kol haTorah kula nitna latza shalom b'olam, shenema drachei darchei noyam, v'chol nesiva aseh shalom." And Rashi goes on. You know why it's so precious to me? Shal yidayim hemidu hanoshim tzvois rabbis b'Mitzrayim. Through these mirrors, the women caused that there should be procreation and millions of Yidden. That's why it's called Marois Hatzayvos. They're mirrors that cause hosts. Why? So Rashi explains. Kishehem Baleim Yagiyam Ba'avodas Perach. The husbands came home, they were beaten. They had to make 600 bricks a day. If they didn't make a brick, they took a child instead. And after 16, 14 hours in the field, they came home and they were wiped. And now this talks to us today too. Men come home. They come home from the cutthroat marketplace, the dog-eat-dog world. They come home weary, wiped out from a commute, wiped out from long hours after getting up early in the morning for davening. They come home, their mamish, they don't have the head for anything. So what do the women do? It's such an interesting Rashi. V'noitloi samarais, they take the mirror, v'kol achas roya atzma im bala b'mara, and they hold the mirror like today people will take selfies. It's the Nayim Mishagas. People, I do it myself, but because I want to have. Why should we have a picture just of me or my wife? I don't want to have a picture of both of us. So we take selfies. So they held the mirror like a selfie, and they would roya atzma and bala b'mara, and they would look at themselves together with their husband in the mirror. Umishadlosai bidvarim. The Sifsei Chachamim translates mishadlosai mifata. They would seduce their husbands. Loimer ani na mimcha. Look, I'm prettier than you. It's a very interesting seduction. I don't know how many husbands that would work on. Look at this. I look nicer than you. Nah, 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 nah. It's such a strange Rashi. They looked in the mirror and he said, I look nicer than you. So it's interesting that Rav Leibel Katz, in his Sefer, I looked around. Not many people talk about this. But Rav Leibel Katz, Rav Leibel Katz was the big man of Shalom Bayis. Those that remember in the day, I remember Rav Leibel Katz watching him answering 2 phones with both ears. That's how many people were calling him. And he picked up 2 phones. Hello, hello. I never forget it. He was so dedicated. What a loss that we suffered. Zichrei Baruch. He should be a Melz Yosher for Klal Yisrael. I'm really excited when I say things over that I could have a little hand in Sifsois of Doivavos Bekever of that great tzaddik, Reb Leibel Katz. So anyway, Reb Leibel Katz says that the Mefarshim, it's so interesting how you could read words and see that somebody comes and says, you're reading it wrong. He says the Mefarshim say that the wife looks at her husband with herself and says to him, Ani na mimcha. I am beautiful from you. You're the reason I'm beautiful. That's the way the Mefarshim explain. Ani, not the way we read it. We read Rashi. I'm more beautiful than you. Ani na mimcha. That's the way I learn Rashi. I'm more beautiful than you. Says Reb Leibel Katz, no, the Mefarshim, he doesn't say who. I didn't find anybody, but we could trust Reb Leibel Katz. He says, Pshat is, Ani na, I am beautiful, mimcha, from you. Now, he has a pshat in it, but I want to say 2 of my own pshatim, which I hold are both very important. What was the woman saying when she said to her husband, looking at the 2 of them in the mirror, and she says, look at me. She made herself very pretty, and she said, I want you to know I'm beautiful from you. So the first pshat is, I believe that the wife is saying, my beauty, it's not for other men, chas v'shalom. Why did Hashem make me beautiful? I'm your zivik. Hashem made me beautiful for you. You see my beauty? That means that the Rebbeinu Shalom loves you. That means the Rebbeinu Shalom thinks you're special. And Hashem made me beautiful. That's for you. Why do I have beauty? For other people, it's a michshel. Why do I have a beauty? It's for you. That means you're special. That's the first thing she's telling her husband. And then I believe she's telling him something else. What I believe she's telling him is if I look pretty, it's because you make me a good home. You provide for me. You give me a place that I could be content and there's a smile that could be on my mouth. Like I say all the time, Nabi told her 2 daughter-in-laws, Mitzena Isha Menucha Beis Isha. A woman should find contentment in the home of her husband. So she says, Ani na, if I look nice, I'm not stressed. I don't have crease lines on my face. It's mimcha. Now, this is a very important yesod. when a woman is mefayis her husband, then he acts that way to her. This is the pia pascha b'chachma. This is her mouth opens with wisdom, v'sayras chesed al lishayna, and the Torah of kindness is on her tongue. This is the Torah of kindness, and then the man reciprocates. This is the chachmos nashim bon sabaysa. It's oh so important. The best way, I've said this many times, that every man craves the admiration of his wife. Every man craves that. The Gemara says, Noshim b'meh zachin, how do women merit Olam Haba? And of course, women have 365 laban like a man, so they get Olam Haba for not speaking Lashon Hara, for keeping Shabbos, and for keeping Yom Tov, and for doing, and they have many mitzvahs asay that are not limited by time, like Yiras Hashem, and all kinds of mitzvahs. But it means, where do they get the schus Torah, which is nitzchias? Or Noshim b'meh zachin, how do they battle the Yetzer Hara? So the Gemara says, by raising their children to love Torah, and bringing them to yeshiva, and by waiting for their husbands till they come home from learning. Very interesting. It doesn't say by telling their husbands to learn. A woman tells her husband to do something, he will probably not do it. But if she shows her husband that she admires that he goes to learn, and she says, for this I'll wait up for you. Otherwise, I'm not waiting up. Don't wake me up when you come home. Going to learn, I'll wait up for you. I'll have supper ready for you. I'll be ready for you. That's showing admiration. So, we have to know, Rabbi say, we have to understand what's going on over here. The Rabbeinu Shalom says to Moshe Rabbeinu, you are ready to reject this. There are people that make a mistake, and they think, look, intimacy is important, but it's still a Maisi Yetzer Hara. That's a very wrong way to look at it. The Rebbeinu Shalom says, Chaviva alai min hakol. You have to know that when Reuven tampered with Yaakov's marital bed and moved it from the tent of Bilhah to the tent of his mother, that cost Reuven dearly. Pachas kamayim al toiser. You were supposed to be Yeser Se'es V'Yeser Av. You were supposed to be the Kayin. You were supposed to be the king. You lost it all. Why? Because Yitzui Allah. You messed with the marital bed. The Yitzui Allah, Rashi says, Allah means that the Shechina is on it. It's Kodesh Kodashim. It's not something that a person should say, you know what, it doesn't need so much emphasis. It's anyway, it's really Yetzer Hara. So the Torah tells us that's a huge mistake. When there's a good Kala teacher and a good Chassan teacher, and that's why it's so important, children, grandchildren, that they should go to a proper Kala teacher and a proper Rebbe for a Chassan. Someone who will tell them that Rav Shach said that a man should spend a minimum of 45 minutes being mesameach his wife. and that it's critical for the success of the marriage. When it says, Al kein yazav ish es aviv es imai, v'davak be'ishtoi, v'hayu lebasar echad. That means that a person leaves his father and mother and cleaves to his wife, and it's achieved when they become a basar echad. Now, of course, there's other pshatim. They become a basar echad when they have children, Rashi says. But ein mikri yotzi midei pshutai. This is the way to achieve a devekis between husband and wife. And a woman says, I'll make him a helper. This is a very important area to be a helper. A woman can't be an Ezer unless she knows how to behave properly in this area. I cannot emphasize this enough and remind you what Reb Chaim Vital said. How could you tell a man? By how he treats his wife. The greatest of the Gurei Harizal makes such a statement. Now, Hashem said, Moshe Rabbeinu, this is what I want at the entrance of my mikdash. My mikdash, whose mission statement is Shalom, Misha Shika Shmoi B'Bayas Hazeh, Hu Yishkem Beinechem, Shalom V'Shal V'Av, Shalom V'Ava V'Achva V'Shalom V'Reyes. I want this at the foot of the Beis HaMikdash. Rashi always seems to wax eloquently when it comes to something that is a great inyan of Shalom. Now, Rashi says, the Rashi doesn't finish, he keeps on going. Rashi says that from the kir we get the water, which we give to drink the saita to make shalom between a husband and a wife. Rabbeinu Bachya says it also, that these maros, that the women made themselves pretty and used this seduction of having a selfie that causes shalom, so there was used from it the water to cause shalom between the saita and her husband. Now this is, we have to understand, most people think, what do you mean? That's the source of where a woman will blow up and explode. So I spoke about this in Parshas Nasa, and this Rashi is a proof to it. The purpose of the Mei Hamorim, the bitter waters, is not to punish the sinful woman. 999 times out of 1,000, if a woman did commit adultery in room 208 of the Holiday Inn when she was closeted in, she's not going to drink the water. Is she out of her mind? She's going to say, okay, I'm out of here without my ksuva. We give her an option. We say, do you want to drink? Or do you want to forfeit your ksuva? We don't make her drink. We give her an option. You could either leave, lose your ksuva, and get a get. Or if you maintain your innocence, you could drink. The purpose of giving the drink is shalom bayis. Because here you have a husband that says, I don't want to be married to her. I warned her not to be alone with the man, and she's alone with the man. I'll never know what happened. So Rebbeinu Shalom said, erase my name to make shalom bayis. So the kir is the source of to save a marriage. And by the way, we see from here how important it is to save a marriage. That we erase Hashem's name to save a marriage. You have to understand that when David HaMelech made the Shitin, the underground pipes that took the Nisach HaYayin and the Nisach HaMayim all the way down to the depths, it says that he accidentally punctured the plate that protected us from the lower waters, and the waters started bubbling up and wanted to drown the whole world. David HaMelech wanted to put on a plate the Shem Hashem and throw it in to seal it. But it would cause Hashem's name to be erased, and he wasn't sure if he was allowed to do that and erase Hashem's name to save the world. So Yeravam ben Nevat made a Kal V'chaimer from, excuse me, correct. Achitophel, thank you, both. Achitophel made a Kal V'chaimer and said, well, if we're allowed to erase the name of Hashem to save one marriage, we could definitely save the world. But to erase Hashem's name. But of course, we erase Hashem's name the same way we say, be mechal one Shabbos, that there should be many Shabbos. So also erase one of Hashem's names so that you save a marriage, so the Shem Kav, which fuses from the Yud of the Ish and the Hey of the Isha, will be for many, many times. It's very important. Now, another reason why they use these maros, so the Sefer Meshivas Nefesh says that they made it out of mirrors so that when the Kahanim came, the Kahanim were not allowed to do an avodah with a stain on their garments. And their garments had to fit. And they couldn't be missing something. So they looked at themselves beforehand to prepare Hikoyin Likras Alikecha Yisrael. And our davening is like the avodah. We also should look at ourselves before in order to prepare for davening. That's the Meshivas Nefesh. We have the Shach HaTorah, a very interesting Shach HaTorah. The Shach, remember, this is not the Shach the Pesach. This was written over 500 years ago. The Shach HaTorah says that the women wanted to see what was going on. They wanted the Kedusha to see what was going on in the Beis HaMikdash. But they couldn't come in because of the men. So they had mirrors so that they could see from the mirrors what is going on. And we see that this is a proper desire. That's why when women say that they want by the Ezes Nashim plate glass, so that they should be able to see, or they want a high balcony, so that they should be able to see what's going on in the shul, we see that's a proper desire. They want to feel part of it. And then there's the Rekanti. The Rekanti says, interesting Rekanti. The Rekanti says that the Kohanim, when they did the Avodah, they had to see the Bailam. But they didn't want to look at women. Women brought karbanas. They brought the Chatesayif, the Eilasayif, if there's a Yeledes, if there's a Zava. They could also bring a Shlamim, they could bring a Taida, Thanksgiving offering. They had to bring a Chates. The Kohanim had to look, and they didn't want to look at women. So they looked at their reflection in the mirror. As I state in Rekanti. So the Heilige Munkacher Rebbe, in the Minchas Elazar, he says, I don't understand. If you don't look at women because they hear her, looking them in the mirror is the same mirror. What does it help? And he brings down that the Shals Chuvas Ber Moshe, the Shals Chuvas Sapnas Panech, from the Ragat say that a mirror is just the same as looking. So what does it help? So the Heilige Munkacher Rebbe says something which is a very big aside. Very big aside. The Munkacher Rebbe says, and by the way, it gives me tremendous nachas to see so many people watching on Zoom. It's great to have all of you. Of course, everybody in anytime.com, on Facebook, on Kalaloshin, here. The Munkacher Rebbe says that really in the Beis HaMikdash, the Kedusha of the Beis HaMikdash did not allow for Hirurim Roim. They had such an awe of the Rebbeinu Shalom that we don't have to worry about sinful thoughts. So then why did they need the mirrors? Then why did they need the mirrors? So it's very interesting. The Munkacher Rebbe said they were afraid that when people came, the myriads of people came to the Beis HaMikdash, they'll say, they preached us that we shouldn't look at women. The Kahanim are looking at women the whole day. And they're not going to know the difference that, when they're in the environment of Kedusha, that's not going to happen. So therefore, that's why they did it by way of the mirror. Now, of course, the Chassidish, like the Munkacher, they a man is not supposed to look at a mirror. It's considered a womanly thing to look in a mirror. So the Munkacher Rebbe says here, where it was the mitzvah lekach, it's okay. And so some people, even they don't usually look in a mirror, will look in a mirror for their tefillin. But it's interesting that there are people that look in a mirror for their tefillin and they're careful not to look at their face. There's a tashbatz that says that the Rav Mishantz, when he had a pain in his eye, and he needed to look in his eye to see what's going on, he would cover the rest of his face and only look in the eye. There are people that are very makpid about looking in a mirror. There's two legends that I know, not one, but two. I say legend, I don't mean it in a negative connotation. There's two stories that I know. One is about Rav Assad, that Rav Assad went to the palace of the Tsar to plead for Klal Yisrael. He went with two other great Gedolim, and the palace door was mirrored. So it was first time that he saw a mirror, and he saw his reflection, and he said, "Let that person go. He's a very hush person." He said that about himself. They also say that this story that Rav Dessler, this is in the Art Scroll biography of Rav Dessler, that Rav Dessler never looked in the pictures of himself and never looked in the mirror. And he saw, somebody showed him a picture, and he said, "That's a very hush of a person." He said it about himself, These are Gedolei Yisrael. That's why some Gedolim don't want to have pictures of themselves taken. There's a story about that, about Rav Assad also, which I once said over, but that's not for now. Before leaving this subject, I wanted to add maybe one more caveat, and I knew I would get carried away with this subject. It's already 33 minutes into the share, and there's a whole share, but this is important stuff. But there is I was sitting by a Seder, probably maybe 1973. It's a long time ago. We don't realize. It's almost 50 years ago. I was sitting at a Seder with my father, and my father, Olav Shalom, told me that in his house in Salish, they use glass by the Seder. So I said, "Daddy," I used to call him Daddy, "Daddy, that's probably because they didn't have Pesach silver." He said, No, and we had Pesach silver. So I said, "So then why did you use glass by the Seder?" So he said, "Look, you're the minig man. You look into it and you tell me." So after my father said that, we bought fancy glasses and we only used glass. And I found two reasons. The first is the mechaber of the Sefer Sipsei Chachamim on Brachas and on Megillah, which all yeshivas learn. He has a Haggadah. And in his Haggadah he says that there's a minhag to use glass because there's an inyan to drink roiv kais. And you could see easily roiv kais if you have a glass. Otherwise you need to use depth perception. That's what he says. Very good reason. The sons, they use glass. The Heilige Divrei Chaim use glass. But then I found a very halakhic makar. The Or Zarua. Most of our minhagim are based on the Or Zarua. Not most, but many. It's brought down in halacha all the time. The Or Zarua says that there's an Indian to use glass so that the red wine we use should be a sea of Persumei Nisa on the table. The red wine, which remembers the Dam and the Damila and the Cheres, it should be a sea of wine on the table for Persumei Nisa. I use glass only. For decades, I only use glass. Now I'm thinking that there might be another reason. You know, it says that they wanted to see a reflection, so the Sefer Oitzer Ployes brings down that they ask why didn't they use Schuchas Levana, which was you could see your reflection, and the Oitzer Ployes brings down that they didn't use glass because in the travel when they were putting it apart and taking it, it would break. It was too fragile. That's why they didn't use glass. But now it makes sense that we're saying, we know this is the anniversary of the birth of the Jewish people. One of the reasons why we eat an egg at the Seder is that this is the birth of Klal Yisrael. Pesach is a celebration of the birth of Klal Yisrael. And the miraculous explosion of Klal Yisrael is now being attributed to the Maros HaTzorvos, to the mirrors, because otherwise the men wouldn't have, they were weary. It says it attributes to this, the Maros HaTzorvos. So therefore we use glass, you can see your reflection in glass. We use glass also for that reason. Could be, it could be. Okay, let's move on. Kol ish asher nisa'o libay. Every man whose heart was elevated, brought to the Mishkan. So the Sefer Oid Yosef Chai brings down a Yerushalmi in Hurrius. This Yerushalmi in Hurrius, it's in Perek Gimel Halacha Dalet. Very interesting Yerushalmi. Yerushalmi says, Ma'aseh b'Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Akiva, is an incident with Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yeshua, and Rabbi Akiva. She'alu l'chaylas Antuchya. They went up to a town called Chaylas Antuchya, and they were collecting, like Ezra's Torah. It says, B'shvil Parnasas Chachamim. Ezra's Torah helps Talmidei Chachamim. They wanted to collect for Talmidei Chachamim. And Hayasham Echad Shishmoi Abba Yehuda. There was somebody there, a very charitable person by the name of Abba Yehuda. Sheyanoisin Stakis Ba'ayin Yafa. He always gave happily, not just generously, but he gave. It wasn't shot you had to squeeze the money out of him. He gave happily. It's what he wanted to do. Pam echad yord min chasa. He lost his money. V'roes Rabbaisav, he saw the Rebbeim coming. V'hit min atzmai mipnei abusha. He hid in the house because of embarrassment. All lebeisai upanav mishunais, and he didn't look normal. He was very downcast. Amar lo yishta mipnei ma panecha mishunas. Why do you look downcast? Amar lo Rabbi Seinu kan. The rabbis are here. I don't know what to do. Says the Medrash, she was even a bigger tzaddik. Amrulai, she said to him, we still have one field. So telech v'timker chetzia, sell half. We don't need the whole field. V'tein lehem. So halach v'asa came. He went and he did it. Oba Eitzel Rabbi Seinu v'nasan lehem. Now they didn't go to him because they already made inquiries. And they found out that he was, out of money. When they saw him come, his spalu alav, they said a special tefillah for him. And the Medrash says, they said a special tefillah, Amalai, that Abba Yehuda, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Chesron Osecha. Hashem should replace what you're lacking. Okay? So after the rabbis left, Yordu Lachroish B'Soi Chatzi Saveku, he went to plow the remaining half of his field. Shoka Parasai, the cow, there was like a sinkhole, and the cow sunk down into the ground, Vinishpara, and broke its foot. Yored Lahaloisa, he went down to get the animal. V'heir HaKadosh Baruch Hu einav u'matza oitza. And Hashem illuminated his eyes, and he found hidden treasure. And he became phenomenally wealthy. Kishabo lefanav, when the next time the Rabbanim came, Amar lahem asa tfilaschem peiros u'peirei peiros. Your tefillas produced fruit and fruit of fruits. Amrulai, so they said, the truth is, afal pi shenosnu acherim yosim imcha. Even though there are greater philanthropists than you, but kasavtenu aisai b'roish pinkis, you're at the top of the Rabbeinu Shalom's list. The Rabbeinu Shalom has a list. You're at the top of the list, because they know in Shemayim, Shenasata b'leiv shalem, you give with a full heart, ubenefesh chafetza, and with a desirous soul. Okay, so now, from this Medrash Hagadol, not Medrash Hagadol, it's Yerushalmi and Hurrius, we could derive many lessons. The first thing is that when he came in, his wife noticed that he had a panav mishunas. Now, there are many women that don't notice if there's something going on with their husbands. You have to know this. I've seen many cases where I say to a wife after a while, do you realize that your husband is very down? No, I don't realize anything different. They don't even realize. The many men that don't realize about their wives. This is what Yosef HaTzadik was praised when he was down in the pit, and he saw by the Sarah Mashkin and the Sarah Oifim, Madua Panecha Zoya Faisayim. If he wouldn't have noticed, they wouldn't have said the dreams, he could have been in the pit forever. A spouse has to be perceptive about what's going on. She recognized that Panam Mishunai, so she asked him. Then, afterwards, now the Medrash says that she was a tzedekes mimenu. Behind every good man is a great woman. That's what the Midrash is teaching us. But I found something else interesting. The Medrash doesn't need to tell us her name. There's a lot of talk about women today. They need to have their picture. It's interesting. The Medrash tells us, Abba Yehuda, it tells us that she was a tzedekes mimenu. I keep on saying the Medrash, Yerushalmi. But Yerushalmi doesn't feel a need to tell her name. Why is that? Well, let me know who she was. You told me Abba Yehuda. I want to know who Abba Yehuda is. So tell me who she is. Interesting thing. It's not going to be popular today. It's not PR. It's not politically correct, PC. But it seems to be that kol kvuda bas melech panima, that's not necessary. She doesn't need her name in the lights. When Esther said kavuni l'dairais, it was only because it was a nevuah tzricha l'dairais. Anyway, this is, along the way, this is a very small point. The big point over here is, and this is a very big point, the big point over here is that we see from over here that the Rebbeinu Shalom did fireworks here. A sinkhole in the ground. He found a phenomenal treasure. Rebbeinu Shalom put the treasure there. Made open miracles. And they said people give more than him. But he gave Asher Nisa'oi Libai. He elevated his heart. He gave Belev Shalom V'nefesh Chafetza. Now, Rabbi say we could practice this. Look, I daven in the morning in summer. On any given morning, could be up to 8 people coming and asking for $1. Now, if you could give a quarter, you could give whatever you find, but whatever you give, it's the way you give it. You could give it with the nerve of these people taking advantage. Or don't they realize they're coming like swarms? Or don't they have anything better to do? Or how much are they going to take advantage of me day after day? Or you could give benefesh chafetza and belev shalom. You could say, the Gemara says, why doesn't Hashem take care of the poor? To save me but from Gehenna. I'm getting a chance to be saved from Gehenna. You could say that every dollar that I give goes into my bank account forever. These people are helping me save. You could say what it says in Medrash Shir Hashirim, Tira dolei tiftach la'anya tiftach la'asya. The door that doesn't open for a poor person opens for a doctor. So they're saving me from a doctor's visit. A person could give belev shalom and benefesh chafetza, and then he's at the top of the list. You're giving it anyway. Train yourself to, instead of giving it with a grimace or with disgust, to give it with a smile, to give it with avar mahant. We see from here what there's a Maimer Chazal. Somebody whose budget is tight, give tzedakah. Abba Yehuda, his budget was tight, and he was yasem hem tzedakah. Mamish, in the fulfillment of the Maimer Chazal. Let's move on. Before we move on, again, I want to remind everybody that if you would like to sponsor next week's shares, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. Pasuk tells us in this week's parsha, "Savaru eish b'chol moishveiseichem b'yom haShabbos." You shouldn't kindle a fire in all your habitats on the Shabbos day. We know that the Tzedokim translated this pasuk wrong, and the Karoim, and they said you shouldn't have a fire burning, and they sat in the dark, and therefore to lahitzi melibam shel Tzedokim. That's why we have cholent. We eat a food that is only good because it's on the fire the whole night. We have the Tzedokim to thank for our cholent, for the chamin, by the svardim. But the Chassam Sofer says that the fire over here, it says in the Tikkunei Zohar, that the fire is the fire of anger. And Loisavaru Eish B'chol Moishveiseichem B'yom HaShabbos means that we should be careful not to get heated up and angry on the Shabbos. Now the Chassam Sofer explains that we all know that the Shabbos is the Makor HaBracha. It's a source of blessing. Right? The Makar Bracha for the whole week. The Chassam Sofer says in the last Mishnah in Shas, it says, "V'lo matza HaKadosh Baruch Hu klei malzik bracha ela hashama." That the only keli that contains bracha is shalom. So Shabbos has the bracha, but we need the container. So the Satan works that we shouldn't have that container. Now there's a famous chidah, and the Ben Ish Chai brings down the chidah. He says that from the Zman Mincha on Friday, and others say from the 10th hour on Friday, when Adam sinned with Chava, a power was given to the Satan to create friction between a husband and a wife. The famous chidah in the Moreh Etzbah. And that's why there's so many fights on Erev Shabbos. People right before Shabbos get angry. It's a koyach of the Satan. So Rabbi Friend, in one of his svarim, and I heard him say this also publicly, said that a smart person will not let himself or herself get upset, because they'll say to themselves, if this would happen during the week, I wouldn't get upset. It's only the Satan that's making me upset about it. I'm not going to let myself get upset. But I saw in the Chidah that the Chidah goes a step further. It's so interesting. I said this over from Rabbi Fran many times, and now I saw the lashon of the Chidah inside. And the Chidah goes a step further. He says, if you're upset because your wife told you she was going to prepare something for you from before Shabbos, she's put out your clothes, she's going to put something away, and she didn't, you should know that it's not her. The Satan made her do it. You shouldn't get upset at your wife, because you should know it's not her. It's not your son that messed up. It's the Satan that was given license, and the Satan. So don't get angry at your wife. Don't get angry at your husband. Your husband would have helped you. It's the Satan that made him do it. That's the lashon of the Chidah. And it's also brought down in a Marsha, very interesting Marsha, that Kas is in the mazel of Shapsoi, Saturn. And that's the Zman of Shabbos, the 36 hours from 6 hours before Shabbos through Shabbos to 6 hours after Shabbos. There's a power of Kas in the world, a mazel of Kas. And the pasuk says, you should be careful. And the Balaturim brings down that the Rabbeinu Shalom says, look, I stopped the Eishel Gehenim, so you stop your fire. And actually it's brought down in the Parsha Makima that the fire of anger is a fire of Gehenim. That's why it says, Kol HaKoyes Kol Minei Gehenim Sholten Boi. And it's interesting, that's why it's also to look at the face of a person when they're angry. Sheishes Yamim Te'aseh Malacha. 6 days, the malacha will be done. It doesn't say ta'aseh malacha. Te'aseh malacha. Your work will be done. Uvayom hashvi tishbais. Now this means that really our work is done. Because it says that Mizaynaisa shel adam ksuven lo Rosh Hashanah. Now you can't sit back on the easy chair and say, look, it's going to come to me. You have to make a shtadlis. But you have to know that the shtadlis is only what we have to put out. But the work is really done by itself. The importance of realizing this is to always ask yourself, I just have to show effort. Is it expected from me to show an effort that will make Hashem nauseous? Does the Rabbeinu Shalom want me to fight with my siblings in order to get my parnasa? Does the Rabbeinu Shalom want me to do devious things or to lie to get my parnasa? Really, the parnasa is te'asa malach. It comes by itself. I just have to show ishtadlus. Rav Moshe said this in the drasha in the 30s when he came to America. He says, does it make sense to be Mechal Shabbos for parnasa? You think that's hishtadlus is going to get you what was decreed on Rosh Hashanah? Now, in preparation for Shabbos, the Shari Tshuva brings down from the Be'er Heitev, who quotes the Kavanas Harizal, that when one sweats in preparation of Shabbos, that sweat helps to erase sin like tears. There are many people that when they say the Slichas Shari Demois Le'ninalu, they fret that they're not so emotional, they don't cry a lot. The Shari Tshuva brings down from Be'er Heitev, from the Arizal, that when a person sweats in preparation of Shabbos, it's considered like tears. That's why if you help your wife bathe the grandchildren or the children, and you sweat in the hot bathroom, l'kavod Shabbos, that's considered like tears. If you're working, chopping something or cooking, and the kitchen is hot because the cholent and the soup is on the blech or on the fire, and you're sweating, that's remarkable. It's so interesting that today people look for innovative ways that they should cut the onion and not tear. I believe that one of the reasons that we eat batzel on Shabbos is in order to cry. So Shabbos, my father told me from his father, Rav Meir, who I'm named after, that's the mayor of Moshe Meir, Hashem Yinkum Dama, he was gassed by the Nazis, Yimach Shemam V'Zichram. He used to say Shabbos is an abbreviation, an acronym of Shabbos Basar Teichel, Shabbos B'Tzolim Teichel, and Shabbos Beyim Teichel. The fact of the matter is that the Gemara says that there's an inyan to prepare for Shabbos, even if you're learning and saying Shir Hashirim, Rav Malach Shivuta. It's interesting, the Shartzian asks, why is there an inyan for a Talmid Chacham to close his Gemara and prepare for Shabbos? It's a mitzvah sheyachal asas al yedei acherim. The women could do it. The kids could do it. Why are we told that they did it themselves? It's what's brought down. It should be done. So this kasha, my Zayda, the Imre Yesh from Eisenstadt, he had this kasha. He used to sharpen the knife, and one time he said, it's brought down, this story is brought down to the L'Kutei Mariach from Hayel to Zayda. So one time, he said, what am I sharpening the knife for? One of the girls could do it. And he gave it over to one of the girls, and he took out a Shulchan Aruch, opened it up, and he opened it up to the page of Nagu L'Hashkus Esasakin. It's brought down in the L'Kutei Mariach. So the Shartzian answers, and he says that preparation for Shabbos is considered a mitzvah begufay. You have to do it yourself. It's an inyan mitzvah ba yosem b'shluchay. And he says maybe it's only here because of Shabbos is so chomer that it's an Issachila. Before I finish, it's 59 minutes, so we're right on target. And I wanted to share with the Olam an interesting Iglei Tal that I saw. It's in the Hakdama of the Iglei Tal. He says that just like it says Shabbos is Shokul Keneged Kol HaMitzvahs, he says the learning of Hilchas Shabbos is Shokul Keneged all learning. That's why so many people learn Hilchas Shabbos. That's what the Iglei Tal says in the Hakdama. I want to really thank everybody for joining us. Again, to sponsors, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. I want to thank our sponsors, Berish Gersman, Lili Nishmas, Mordechai Ben Avram, We thank our anonymous sponsor for the schus of Yisrael ben Avram, Sarah Miriam Bas Avram, and Yishai Mordechai ben Yisrael, and the schus the Refuah Shalem of Yehudis Bas Miriam Zisel, and for a Shidduch Hagen Ba'Gala, and with ease for Vayakheil Bas Miriam Zisel. Have a very good night and a very good Shabbos.